Hi, I'm Maria Leiss. I teach 8th grade math at Winton Woods Middle School in Cincinnati, Ohio.
How would you describe the data for these two?
8th grade math is kind of cool because it sums up everything they've learned from 1st grade through now, kindergarten through now.
All the numbers stay about the same. Okay, good.
In 8th grade, students can expect to explore algebraic relationships and their connection to proportions and proportionality.
It gets them a good foundation for high school. So we learn a lot about equations, solving equations. We learn a lot about linear equations, functions, the focus being more on the thinking involved in the process to solve it as opposed to just the end product. What was our line doing yesterday when we were doing the total number of jumping jacks? Our line constantly did what? Maybe, is he going up?
Yeah.
But when we flipped to the back of the paper, we then took how many jumping jacks they did each segment, right? So that's what this is measuring.
Data can be represented using a variety of different approaches, different types of graphs, different types of tests. Based on the models that kids use, they may reach different conclusions.
The idea of a function is it's really just taking two things in life that have numbers associated and seeing how they work together. For example, today in class we did time and jumping jacks. They completed an activity where they were timing someone doing jumping jacks, recording the data. So you have the idea of time, you have the idea of jumping jacks, both numerical, but looking at how those two things work together. I just want you to take the data and make a sketch on the X and Y axis, on the graph. Which one do you think is the easiest one to make a prediction for? So here's what I want you to do next. I want you to compare all 5 of the graphs. It's getting kids to actually think, how does the idea of one thing changing in real life going to affect the other thing changing? And you put numbers with it and math with it, and we'll end up writing equations, we'll end up doing some problem solving.
Why do you think they might go up at the beginning?
Because it's starting to go constant until...
Well, think about this. What was happening at the beginning of the activity compared to the end of the activity?
A challenge students sometimes have with functions and quantitative relationships is sometimes it's hard for them to make those predictions without making a connection that's personal to them.
Aurelie, why do you think that's good? How did you know that it dropped based on his graph? What did the line do all of a sudden?
If you just say, well, if I change X to 6, how's that going to change Y? They have a hard time with that.
Do you think it's accurate? Do you understand, or do you have any questions about it?
And that's where making the graphs and having the different representations helps them see that easier. They will do a lot with analyzing graphs in their classroom activities over the course of the year. When it comes to functions and graphical representations, functions are much easier to see when you've got a picture to look at. And creating a picture allows the students to kind of have a good image of what's happening to these two things as we change one and the other.
Okay, I want you to figure it out.
When we were in school, we didn't spend a whole lot of time analyzing how things go together as far as graphical representations. You just looked at numbers and saw, oh, they were going up, or oh, they were going down. Where now we need to actually be able to look at the math. We want the students to have a picture in their mind of what they can expect.
So sketch that. And then I want you to compare the 4 of you, compare your sketches.
Can they match that up with the picture? Can they take the picture and match it with the data so that they can make predictions and see a better understanding of how those numbers are changing and how they affect each other?
Kids need to learn math for understanding. Otherwise, it's just following a recipe, and it's not very interesting.
I think these two. No. 2.
6.
2.
Calculator in math class, especially when you get to 8th grade, we start dealing with numbers that are really large. Sitting down and actually working all that math out on paper is time-consuming. A calculator enables us to do that quickly, show us these large numbers, and then we're able to work with those large numbers and compare and make graphs to see trends over time, to see how the growth is going to change. And the calculator it speeds up the process for us so that we can actually accomplish more. In 8th grade, expect to be challenged. Expect to learn that There are numbers now that we're not going to be familiar with, and we're not even going to know what they are. So we're going to have letters thrown into math, and we're going to be getting used to that. Parents should be prepared to maybe not quite understand the math necessarily, because it's different than the way we were taught, but start communicating with your child about what you did in school. Not necessarily the focus on the answer to the problem, but what was the work involved in that problem?